Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video, and welcome to the third and penultimate part of my list of titling of I think I called it pot or port 3 or whatever. But anyway, of my plans for the Dyslexic Millionaires Network, which would be all part of what I call Illionaires Networks, which I hope to talk about ASAP. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you checked out parts 1 and 2. I'm going to look out for part 4 and when it comes out, hopefully ASAP. All being well. But yeah, if you haven't checked out parts 1 and 2, please check them out ASAP. I'd really appreciate that, and I hope you'll share it with dyslexics out there. I hope as many dyslexics around the world as possible watch these videos, whatever their socio-economic income level or background is or whatever. But yeah, dyslexics of all ages, colours, shapes, sizes and whatever. But anyway, these are pointers number 21 to 30, and here goes. So number 21, as with all my ideas, I wish I had achieved it a lot. I wish I would have put this into practice a lot sooner. Well, I mean, it's not being put into practice, but I mean, I wish I would have done it by now. That's what I mean. So, and yeah, I'd love to do it ASAP. I think initially I came up with an idea for a Dyslexic Billionaires Network before this one, and then it was what I jokingly call a mere Millionaires Network. But yeah, it would be part of what I call Illionaires Networks. Yeah, I wish I had achieved it already. I guess I was going to say a lot sooner, but that would imply I have achieved it. But yeah, I wish I would have put these ideas into action by now. But I'd love to do so ASAP. And I think I forgot to say in the Billionaires version, but I guess they'd be pretty much the same, to be honest with you. But the only difference would be that the Billionaires version would be obviously for billionaires, and this one would be for millionaires. So they would be pretty much the same. I did try and think of different things I could cover. Yeah, I guess they'd work on the same principle, but obviously this would be probably maybe at a lower level because there wouldn't be as much money and investment and whatever as the billionaire version. And I guess people say that billionaires have a really unique mindset, like the way they use time, how they value time so much, and so many things like that. It's a hugely different mindset how they utilize their time. They may have even more energy. They might also have more connections or whatever. But I suppose, who knows? It could actually be that the millionaires version would be actually bigger because there's more of them. So if there were the billionaires version may well have like if we said 20%, let's say 10% of billionaires, let's say, have dyslexia, that could be about three or 400 or something like that. Whereas millionaires around the world would be more like I suppose it would be thousands of them around the world. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what the numbers would be, but I imagine there'd be more of them. But I guess their connections might not be quite as strong or whatever. They might not have quite the mindset, but I suppose you never know because of the numbers. It could be that as I jokingly call it, mere millionaires version would actually be worth even more, just on the sheer number of how many people would be, how many dyslexic millionaires there are versus how many dyslexic billionaires there are. Not they would be in competition with each other, but hopefully they'd be part of a more wider dyslexic network, as well as what I call Illionaires networks and that kind of thing. But with the billionaires version, I dream that they'd be able to use company money as well somehow. Like, so I was thinking like Schwab Corp has, I think, 7 trillion or even 8 trillion by now assets under management. It's probably growing a lot quicker. So if they could use that money somehow, I mean, I'm saying that again. I have to mention that, I say again because I mentioned that in previous videos, I wouldn't encourage anything illegal, but if there was some sort of legal loophole, or if there were many legal loopholes, or at least a few that they could use, maybe they could reinvest those trillions to make even more. But ideally, I'd love for us to be philanthropists, which I have to come to. But I think I'm going to move on to point number 22. Um, I guess, so yeah, point number 22. I guess I've been a bit anxious today, technically, yesterday, because I have all these ideas in my mind. And I'm thinking, like, I really want to, like, do them straight away, and I don't want to forget things by taking on too much or whatever. But for some reason, I've really been struggling to focus and make decisions on what I'm going to do, and struggling to avoid distractions. But yeah, I'd love to set these sort of networks up in the future, ASAP, and I suppose someone to run the ideas for me. But I'd love to have just like 10% of the equity and like um, be known as the founder and be proud to come up with an idea. Although I'm not very good at anything else, but people say ideas are a dime a dozen, but um, ideas are a dime a dozen. But I'm like, ideas are all I have. I'm not very good at anything else, pretty much. I mean, it's in terms of abilities. I mean, obviously, thankfully, I do have a lot of things like health, friends, family, and that kind of thing. So I'm pretty, well, I'm pleased with those things. I'm appreciative. Sorry, I was trying to say that. I'm appreciative of those things, please, and appreciative of those things like being able to walk, being able to talk, being able to listen, being able to see, and things like that. But yeah, I love to achieve things like this as well. But it'd be great if people took my ideas and run with it. But I'd love to have 10% of the equity and trademark take the idea for that very reason, I guess. I can't think of any other reason. I think that's why I wanted to trademark take the idea. So, but yeah, I mean, even if I got 10% of the equity, I would donate that to like what I call my 5 causes, but that could include helping dyslexic entrepreneurs, so like helping Itanful, helping Celtic, libertarian parties and groups, um, and organisations and that kind of thing, associations and whatnot, and also supporting people from former colonies, but that would include dyslexia awareness in those countries, and also dyslexic empowerment generally in those countries, and also tackling poverty, alleviating suffering, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. Moving on to, so yeah, it'd be interesting what we could do in the future. But moving on to point number 23, I would love for us to be philanthropists. I was thinking like two of my fellow dyslexics. I'm sorry, two of my fellow mixed race people, who I think are also, one of them is dyslexic, and I think one has ADHD. Then I don't know if they have dyslexia as well, but which are M.K.S, I don't know how to pronounce the name, which I mentioned in part 1. I've mentioned in the past, and Stephen Bartlett. I'd love to encourage them to give away as much of their money as possible, but I suppose it is what they feel comfortable with. But yeah, I'd love for us to give our money away. So I guess part of it is like showing what we could do, but I'd love to encourage my fellow dyslexics. And in a bit of a side note, because it's not specifically dyslexia related, or even also, and certainly not dyslexic related, but I'd love to encourage us. I'd love to encourage as many investors as possible, whether that's dyslexic millionaires, billionaires, or in the future even trillionaires, or the PIF, the Task Force Investments, or others, to invest in those 5 causes, like the Itanful, Celtic, libertarianism, people from former colonies and their people and their populations, and also tackling poverty and alleviating suffering and spreading peace, love, joy, hope, and happiness, and that kind of thing. And yeah, I'd love to encourage as many people as possible in organisations to invest into, donate to, even, and sponsor those things as much as possible. And yeah, if I could encourage my fellow dyslexics and people with related conditions to give as much of their money away as possible, I think that would be pretty cool. And sometimes it's not just money, like I talked about in part 2 about mentorship and that kind of thing. And I think both in parts 1 and 2, like about teaching and training people and that kind of thing. But I wouldn't want to force anyone to do something they don't want to do. So if I sent a video link to like Emma Gwene, or how you pronounce her name, and sure, I got to meet her and I talked to her, I guess I don't want to sort of pester someone, say, oh, you should donate to this charity or whatever. But I guess the point is about showing what we can do. In the past, I used to want to make loads of money, as I mentioned before in previous videos, but I know I always reference previous videos, but now I'm more into philanthropy. I think I wanted to show off to other people, hoping I could do a lot of great things and then show off to them. So when I came up with the idea for the Dyslexic Business Network, for instance, it was about showing off what I don't know if showing off is the right way, but proving I could do something is probably a better way of putting it. But yeah, I think once dyslexics have the confidence and prove what we can do, I think it'd be great if we could go from a group that supposedly is slow, dumb, thick, lazy, backwards, and whatever other terms people call us, to show them what we can do to not help not only ourselves but help others. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to think if there's something else I was going to say, but I know I talk about, like, I'd love to see what dyslexic could contribute to a town hall and Celtic and developing nations and that kind of thing more generally, and tackling poverty and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, again, I wouldn't want to pester anyone. So if they said, oh, I'm not going to give my money away, that's up to them. And even this group, if it group team or whatever, if it says we're not going to give any of our money to charity, then that would be up to them. I guess the way it would run is, what I'm going to talk about, if I move on to point number 24, I'm just hoping I don't forget any points. But yeah, I'd love to encourage dyslexics to give away as much of our money as possible, especially once we know we have enough to live on. We won't need any more. I just think I shouldn't have made such a big pot of tea though, but big mug of tea, but it looks like a pot. That's what I got for my birthday or Christmas once, I think. Anyway, problem with having big mugs, especially when someone like me procrastinates a lot, it gets cold by the time it gets to the bottom of it. But anyway, I think my mum wants me to drink from big mugs so that I don't drink so many, like, volume wise. I mean, obviously it's still bigger, but if I have smaller mugs, then I finish it quicker, then move on to the next one. But it stays in my system for longer. The negative effects of drinking too much tea, but I know, nice life story. So, being quite rebellious, I still drink a lot of tea. Well, I get bored very quickly, so I drink a lot of tea. But yeah, I'm sure there's something else to say, but I've completely forgotten about it. I'm going to move on to point number 24. So I talked about before, like, how it would work to an extent, or trying to think about a process, a step-by process. So I dream for it. The ideal process would be, I guess, as I said before, like, to get it started, up and running off the ground and that kind of thing, ASAP. As I said before, I'd love to have done it already. And then to appoint, like, a CEO, MD, chairman or chairwoman, CFO, and all those sort of things. I suppose looking at what other businesses have done well, which I talked about before, I think in part 1 or 2, I can't remember which one. But anyway, looking at what they've done and sort of replicating what big companies have done, like what could we learn from? What could we learn from, like, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, IBM, Microsoft, or any other companies, and what companies could we network with, and that kind of thing, as well as networking with each other. But so my ideal structure is I'd love to trademark protect, like Illionaires networks, and in the case of, like, something like this, millionaires of a certain background. In this case, you'd have to be, as I said before, just sorry to repeat myself, but you'd have to be both dyslexic and a millionaire to join. But as a founder, I'd love to be the only one who breaks that rule. But I mean, there would still perhaps be investors, shareholders, equity holders, or whatever, and people who could be involved, maybe with networks or whatever. That group itself could network with others, whatever group or team or brand or whatever you want to call it. I'd love for it to operate as a group. I love that term. I don't know why, the group, but also to be a brand, to work as a brand and a team. Hence, I put brand and team in trademark, in speech marks and trademark, protect it and that kind of thing. Yeah, I dream it would be a big brand worth, like, billions, perhaps maybe even trillions. But yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, I was getting it off the ground. But I'm just trying to think if there's any other sort of things I would love for it to feature or involve, or how I'd love for it to run. So I'm trying to think of a process. Possibly meet up, maybe I wouldn't imagine it would be annually. I imagine it'd be at least once a month, if not once a fortnight, or even once a week, or even daily, even once a day, at least, or even several times, or like have each other's phone numbers, members. Say I've got this problem. What what solution could be, or where could we invest this money, or whatever. But the main core could be. I mean, it could be that they have each other's numbers and sort of say we can call each other at pretty much any time, as long as we chat business or whatever it might be, or even play football or golf together or whatever it might be, tennis or whatever, basketball or whatever. But on Zoom, they could chat as often as possible and say like, where should we invest as a group? How can we support each other, and how can we support other dyslexics or whatever? So yeah, I think that's pretty much how I'd love for it to run. But I'd love to know what suggestions you would have. Like, what do you think? Do you think it would be better as a cooperative, or so that would be like one person, one vote, or whatever, where they vote, all the members vote together? I'd love for it to be member-led, / user-led, or whatever. But then again, maybe having a chairman or chairwoman, CEO, MD, or whatever would imply that they're sort of leaders in the group that could say, "No, we're going to do it this way." I mean, I'd kind of love for it to be democratic, but I guess what I'm talking about now are just ideals. Even if it gets up and running, it's like, in the first place, there still be a chairman or chairwoman could come along and say, no, this is how we're going to run it, or whatever. So I'm talking about what my ideals would be, and like all I'd love to have is like 10% of the equity, and for the group to make billions, and then we need to donate it to my 5 causes, ideally, so that's my dreams, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'd love for them to meet up once a day, even if not in person, like not physically meeting up, but actually on Zoom, so they can just discuss investments, how to pool money and resources together, and say like, we can invest in this, or we think gold is going to go up or down in value, or whatever. And the beauty of dyslexia, I have to mention, like, we have innovation, creativity, ideas, and all these sorts of things, industrial investment, whatever. But the other thing is that we can predict. Some of us can predict future markets. I think many dyslexics are really good at that. I'm sure there are many dyslexic investors who can predict market values. I don't know if there's any evidence on this, but I think people say Ray Dalio might be dyslexic, even Larry Ellison, people like that. But there'd be more in the billionaires version if that's true. But or in the future, even trillionaires. But I'm sure there are many dyslexic investors. I know there's on YouTube, there's like a dyslexic investor and whatnot. But yeah, I think they'd be able to predict like where the future is heading, and I think that's a really good ability to have. You call it skill or talent, but let's say an ability to have to predict future market trends. I think that might be one of the best abilities to have, because if you can look ahead and have a vision for the future and see where it predicts as well where things are likely to head, you can position your investments and whatnot. But moving on, I'm 25. Another thing I was thinking of is like how it's Christmas. I was going to say it's Christmas on the 25th. Hence point of 25, but it's Christmas. Sorry to remind people again for who are not that keen on Christmas, but it is Christmas not too far away. So I'd love to talk about my dreams and goals. Excuse me. More generally, I know I talked about like my dreams for time for, e.g., how I'd love for InvestCorp to invest into Inter, IBM for Inter. I say for, meaning having shares or integral equity in, investing into, donating to, or at least sponsoring, probably investing into. Don't know if they donate to, but investing into and sponsoring. Obviously, they're going to want something in return. So, like the World Health Organization for Inter Milan, IBM for Inter Milan, IMF for Inter Milan. I suppose the IMF is known to sort of, dare I say, give loans. They're a bit controversial, but if they invest in Intel, I'll say they're great. I know they're known to give loans and then put people into debt, which I suppose coincidentally is what I guess people lent to the people who owned Inter, and now they've taken over the club. But it depends if they're going to invest. Excuse me. I think that's what fans want to see the most. But that's why I love for Invest Corp to invest into Inter, and even entire countries like India, Indonesia, and places like given my use of alliterations, and maybe Malaysia to invest either in AC Monza or Inter Milan or AC Milan or whatnot. Yeah, those are some of my Christmas dreams. Well, the general dreams, but I thought I'd use Christmas to talk about my shopping list for Christmas. Maybe I'll talk about that on the 18th, which is a week before Christmas, all being well. I'll talk about that. But anyway, without wanting to give too much away. Moving on, number 26. As a dream will support people from former colonies and support more POC, people of colour, minorities, and women to become dyslexic millionaires, maybe. And again, in the future, I'd love for us to give our wealth away. Number 27. Once again, I'm not sure whether I'd want it to work as a cooperative, like so one person, one vote, or whatever, or investors who put more money or time, effort, energy, ideas, or whatever. I know people say ideas are a dime a dozen, but those who contribute the most in some way could have more shares, or they might say, because I go to the meetings or whatever, I put more in. I think I should get more out, and maybe it could be discussed. I just hope it would be done amicably. So if and when it gets up and running, so it would be that we agree to disagree. That's what I'm trying to think of saying. This saying really confuses me. Like picked their brains. I wonder why people say picked their brains. But as some people say, your network is your net worth. And I talked about in part one, like how they could be inspired by each other and learn from each other, and help each other to buy back time, so to speak. As some people say, although time's not quite a commodity, but I mean, some people say time doesn't exist, but today I think I'm being defeated by time. Sorry, that's number 27. Sorry. But yeah, your reward for putting more money, time, effort, energy, or whatever into it would be having more shares or equity, whatever. So it could be that those with more bigger pockets, bigger bank accounts, or whatever, would have more to say. To be honest, again, I'm not 100% sure how it run, but saying again, as a founder, I'm not saying that it would be run by me, because a chairman or chairwoman could decide. So if someone like Barbara Corcoran, Emma Grede, or however you pronounce her name, or Simon Squibb, or whoever was in charge of it as the CEO, MD, chairman, chairwoman, or whatever, they would perhaps have much more say than me, even though I'm the founder of it, as the person came with it, or hope to be the founder and have 10% of the equity. I suppose that's the only thing I'd really want, and to put some ideas and input into it and encourage them to invest in town for donate to it and sponsor it, and then give their money away to charity and stuff as well. And those are the things to talk about. I wanted to give a shout out to people who have helped me in life, especially support my work, if you can call it like I know Yagnesh, who went to school with me, Yag Palmer. He said he wanted a shout out, and I gave him a shout out before, but I'm going to give him another one for this video, so I'll share the link from Facebook with him. But hopefully he'll check out the YouTube version as well. But also, even though she had a pain in the brain, my mum, for putting a roof over my head and that kind of thing. Alicia Bardaz for giving me an interview and encouraging my work or plans or whatever, thoughts and dreams and goals and whatever. I hope I don't miss anyone. People like Rory for encouraging me, Richard, who invites me to the filmmakers group, the movie makers, I'll say on Monday, because movie Mondays, and people for putting up with me, and just again, I'm hoping I don't miss anyone. My friend Devon, and all my friends and family and all that. I think people who support and encourage me, I'd like to say thanks. So I think of the point number 20. I think of point number 27 as like rewards. So I suppose people like Ratul from India, I hope I pronounced your name right, who is also an Italian football fan from India, and I hope to go more people from India to be Italian football fans, and also my brain's not working. Tim, Martin Bloomfield from Dyslexia Bites. Please check out his channel if you're interested in dyslexia. On YouTube, Dyslexic Bites, BYTES. Not sure what that's in reference to. I assume that's a tech term. I'm sure there's one or two others I'm forgetting, so please forgive me. But yeah, if you want to shout out in my next video, please remind me. Like, send me a message either on Facebook or YouTube, and let me know, and I'll try to remember to give you a shout out in point number 27 of my next series of videos, or whatever. From when you send a message, of course. If you send it after, then it'll be too late. But I could send you a shout out. Obviously, my family, my mum, my dad, and people like that for putting up with me. My mum does need a medal. I wonder if she really is a pain in the brain. I guess it's me that's a pain in the brain. But anyway, yeah, I suppose in point number 23, I could have mentioned Rare Gem School I support in Kenya. But on that note, I'm going to mention in point number 28. I talked about a little bit about like I would love for us. I think I forgot to mention a point actually, which I know again referencing previous videos, but in the past. But in fact, I didn't get around to it in this year, but in too much detail. But I'd love for us to have our own independent schools. So I think like it'd be cool if we created our own schools, our own educational establishments that taught us in the way we learn and taught us things we're actually going to use, which I think would be better than mainstream schools, to be honest. Not just for us, but I think just generally for like educational thing. With other people with related conditions as well. Although someone told me that if you include people with autism, when things are different, and someone once had an objection where they said dyslexics think so differently to each other, but then if we think so differently to each other, I'm sure we think much even more differently to people who are not dyslexic. But so yeah, I'd love for us to have our own independent schools, to create our own jobs, create our own businesses, like support each other on social media like YouTube, TikTok, and things like that, and support alternative ways to make money, legal ones. But yeah, so we don't have to rely on an employer. Things like investing together, things like, although I know you have to be wary of scams, and teaching each other things and warning each other. Sorry, that's what I think. But yeah, warning each other about potential scams and whatnot, and just generally supporting uplifting each other. But yeah, so point number 28, as I say, supporting special needs schools around the world, especially in developing nations, schools like the Rare Gem School in Kenya. I'd love to get in touch with more from like India, Malaysia, Indonesia, South Africa, Singapore, and countries like that, which I often talk about supporting, and raise awareness of dyslexia around the world. And I hope I mentioned before again that even just reading a list of famous dyslexics or like dyslexic millionaires and billionaires and that kind of thing could inspire people to think dyslexic people can achieve things. What else in the movie industry, the music industry, business, sports, or all sorts of different areas. But yeah, I'd love to know, what do you think? Do you think my videos have inspired people? I'd love to know. Coincidentally, I'm on point number 28 and the clock is just between 28 and 29. But on that, moving on, number 29, again, I'd love to see more diverse representation, like women, girls, POC, and others being empowered, not just white males. As people say, our role models are too white and male, I guess. Nothing wrong with them doing well, but that's a controversial view. But I talked in the past about, I'd love to support dyslexics generally and people generally, but obviously I'm focusing mainly on dyslexic sports and also like dyscalculics, dyspraxics, dysgraphics, and people with disability. And that's one group I forgot to include like more generally today. And yesterday, but sorry, I do struggle to get the point. But yeah, I'd love to see more diverse representation. I know there's a book called something like Black, Brilliant, and Dyslexic, which I read a while back. I can't remember if it's Brilliant, Black, and Dyslexic, or Black, Brilliant, and Dyslexic. But it's about having more people from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, so not just like role models and people like Richard Branson or Jamie Oliver, Keira Knightley, Orlando Bloom, and others like that, but also people, POC, people of colour, people like Damon John, Billy Blanks, who teaches martial arts, the late Benjamin Zephaniah, and one or two others. And it'd be great if there's more Asian representation as well, and mixed race people like myself. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having role models who are white and male. I just think it'd be good to have more diverse representation. But I know other people have said that as well. But again, you might disagree, which is fine. And number 30, although I talk about like getting running business, I talk about like giving to charity as well. But I guess I'd still love for us to have sugar mamas and all that kind of thing, sugar daddies, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't want dyslexics to be providers for some reason. I don't know why, but people who have things in common with me, I never like them to be providers. But I know, it's not one of my quirks. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up and I'm out. Peace and love. All the best.